Everybody knows we've got North Carolina State on Saturday, 3:05 kick, possible 5-minute slide for TD. With that, second year, Coach Bill Muschamp.
How y'all doing? Great. We're looking forward to the Belk College kickoff and Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium, home of the Panthers. And I know our guys are excited about playing a very good veteran NC State football team. You got 18 returning starters, 8 senior starters on defense, 6 of them in the front 7. A very efficient, experienced quarterback in Ryan Finley, a guy that does an outstanding job with their offense. 89 starts back up front in the offensive line, and 2 dynamic playmakers, and Jalen Samuels and Naheem Hines, who's also a returner as well, and a guy that they'll move both of those guys around a bunch. But the strength of their football team is in their front 4, and those guys are extremely talented. And Chubb and Street and Hill and Jones, they're really good football players. So we need to play well. And again, I think we've had a good camp, but talk's cheap. You got to go play on Saturday afternoon and play well, and that's what we plan on doing. Injury-wise, the only 2 guys that would have probably contributed to our team that won't play is Rendricus Davis and Taven Jackson. Steven Montack, I think, is going to be available. He'll practice tomorrow. He ran around and looked good today, so I think Steven's going to be back up for the game, which is good, especially as thin as we are in the secondary. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. David, with the first one.
Well, you mentioned that the guys that, championship teams that you've been on in the past, the guys liked camp and others didn't. How was this camp compared to some?
Well, our guys embraced it. I don't know that we walked out of any practice or meeting and didn't feel good about making some positive progress. But again, you got to do it on game day. But this is I told one of the staff members walking back from practice, it's been a fun group to be around as far as how they've gone about their business and practice the right way and approach things the right way, and so it's been fun.
Gino?
Hey, Will, if you could just say one thing that most concerns you going into Saturday.
How much time you got?
As much as you want.
Well, I think that anytime there's going to be some newcomers defensively. They're going to be playing some critical snaps for us, and how they're going to respond, you never know. I think there's a lot of knowns offensively. I think we've made improvements in our offensive line. They got to block a very good front. We'll find out how far we've come Saturday. That's the bottom line, and we got new specialists across the board. So just to quickly broad stroke it, I can tell you those are some areas of concern for me.
Let's go to the back of the room. Is that Greg?
Hey, well, I noticed 3 running backs listed on the depth chart. Can you take us through that decision? Did one guy just not separate himself from the rest, or are you comfortable playing all 3?
Very comfortable playing all 3. All 3 are quality players, and all 3 are going to, Rico will probably start the game, and certainly Tyson's going to be a guy that's going to spell him. AJ will be in probably the 3rd series in the game. We're still going to work through kind of the rotation of things we need to do, but whoever's got the hot hand is going to carry us. And but all 3 guys deserve to play. All 3 guys deserve to start, to be honest with you. And we're going to find times to maybe possibly get up 2 of them on the field together. So, but all of them deserve to play and deserve to start.
Well, I know you've had some concerns of depth at linebacker. Does that mean Sky Moore plays as many plays as he can, or do you have to treat him a little differently just because he hasn't been out there in a while?
Well, no, his conditioning level is fine, regardless of missing a season. That doesn't have anything to do with it. But I've got confidence in Eldridge Thompson and Sherrod Green, 2 guys that have continued to progress through camp in a very positive manner. And those guys are going to play. I mean, I told the defensive staff a couple days ago we got to script out our series as we move forward and make sure that one of those guys is in the game with Sky or TJ. To make sure they've got a calming effect there as far as those things are concerned, and get the guys on the field together, as best we can. But I've got confidence in both Sherrod and Eldridge to do a good job for us.
David.
Will, do you have a starting place kicker, and if not, when do you make that decision?
I'm still working through that, and we had some a 1-minute situation today, but we'll still work through that again. I've got a lot of confidence in both Alex and Parker right now. Both of those guys certainly are more than capable of doing a good job for us.
Coach, what do you see from Keyshawn Nixon over the course of camp? I saw he was listed on the 2 deep, and how important is his role going to be come Saturday with some guys out in the secondary?
Well, Keyshawn's a good football player. I think that it's been very difficult on him coming in here right when camp was starting. He had no summer, he had no spring to really go through and learn a lot of the stuff we do. We put a lot on our safeties, and he's learning that right now, and he's going through that process. He's going to be a very big asset to our football team this year, and I certainly is a guy that's going to prepare the right way to play well if he's given the opportunity against NC State. But I'm excited about him. I'm glad he's in our program. He's going to be a very productive player for us.
If Steven can go, does that change at all what you can do with Chris, or do you more just use Steven as kind of a backup for both?
No, Steven will be in a backup role. You know, he's missed a lot of time, and certainly he's extremely bright. So he's not a guy that needs a lot of reps. He can go out there and play without a lot of reps. So, but right now we'll go with what we got.
Compared to a year ago at the quarterback position, the question marks going into the season opener versus this year, having that stability, how does that trickle down to the other skill guys? And do you think this offense can be able to pick up where it left off last year in some degree?
Well, it helps tremendously when you have experience and ability at the position, the most important position on your squad. So when you have that, then you certainly gives you a lot of confidence to what you're going to be able to do, how you're going to be able to adjust offensively in the game, to understand the calming effect that Jake has on the rest of our football team, but certainly our offense is pretty evident.
With all the pre-snap movement they do with shifts and motions and all that, is that comparable to anything you've seen any point along the way?
I don't know. I mean, I think that because of tempo, a lot of teams are not moving and shifting as much anymore. They'll create tempo without motion and shift, but certainly they do give you some pre-snap movement. So something we've prepared for a lot. Our offense does a lot of movement as well. So I think that there's some comparable qualities between some of the pre-snap things we've seen throughout camp.
Will, how have you seen the tight end position evolve in this system to where it almost seems like you're going to have multiple tight ends on the field, it seems, every play?
Well, again, that's for a defensive coach, it's very difficult to count some of those guys. When you talk in terms of Hayden and KC are both guys that can split out and be a very effective running routes in the slot or outside. But they're also guys that can go block in the C area on the offensive line and create an extra gap for you in the run game. So they're hard to count, and Jacob and those guys continue. Kiel Pollard, Evan Henson, Kyle Markway, all of those guys offer a different skill set to what we're trying to do at the position, and that certainly give you a lot of versatility offensively.
Will there be any suspensions for this game for any off-season indiscretions?
No.
Is there anything different in preparation for a neutral site game as compared to a road game, and is it a little bit like a bowl or not really?
Not really. I mean, we have the same travel operation on the day before the game. The game preparation is always the same regardless of where you're playing. And we head up to Charlotte and play in a great venue, and that's against a very good team. So looking forward to it.
Rick?
Well, during the preseason, you talked about making this team tougher, being a more physical team. As you get ready to go into the season opener, have they met the standards of Will Muschamp of being for toughness and physicality?
Well, you got to do it on game day. At the end of the day, that's when you're measured. It's no different than practicing for an exam. You got to do well on the exam, regardless of how well you did on the practice test. We've had a bunch of practice tests so far, and we got to do well in the exam, and that's on September 2nd. But it's a long season. It's not a one-game season, so we need to prepare well for this game, which I feel good about our preparation to this point. I feel good about the culture of our program and where it is and how it is moving forward. So the best days for South Carolina football is ahead.
Coach, with the way NC State uses a guy like Jalen Samuels, how difficult was it kind of preparing for a guy like that?
Well, he's a really good player. I mean, they find very creative ways to hand him the ball, throw him the ball, toss him the ball. And he's a very effective playmaker. I've got a lot of respect for the young man. I don't know him personally, but just when you have this much time to prepare, you watch a lot of tape, and certainly really enjoy watching him play. But a guy that you got to have awareness of where he is, and your guys just got to have some understanding of when he lines up in certain areas. There's a reason why he's there, and just have a good concept for understanding those things.
Will, how far into the future, or have you been consulted on scheduling?
Charles Waddell and I were just talking about 2 minutes ago. But
About what years, or because I know it's scheduled.
I
so
think
far
we're
in-
pretty good through 19. We're still working on past that.
And do you like? I know you've said before you like the Charlotte thing because you want to establish,
Mhm.
recruiting there and in North Carolina. Is it important to win Saturday, or is the presence there enough for you to get what you're wanting out of
Well,
it?
certainly you want to always have success. I mean, that's obvious. But I don't think that any recruit is going to make a decision based on one game. And if they are, we probably don't want them. But I'm always open to Charlotte, Atlanta, anytime we can. Those are two areas we need to recruit well in. We got great players in our state. They're not going to be numbers wise enough each year to fulfill our roster. So anytime we can have a kickoff situation in those, and Coach Tanner knows how I feel about it, and to have those opportunities to go get exposure in those areas are very important for us.
During the preseason, Will, how much did you guys watch on State, Missouri, or any other team throughout the schedule? How much tape did you watch?
Well, none with our players, but as a staff, we've game planned the first 3 games fully. I mean, short yardage, goal line, third down, everything you can imagine. We're ready for those games. Certainly, we're going to tweak and change some things. Obviously, we have in this first game already, but as a staff, we start that back in the spring, and we start a season review, preview on our opponents for the next season, and spend multiple days on each opponent and all 3 phases of the game, and to prepare and have notes for you when you get to game week and some things that you saw in your off-season study to hopefully help you prepare for the game.
This is probably you have to wait for the game for, but have you been pleased with this team's team speed in fall camp?
Well,
and
we're
do you
much
think they're
faster than
improved?
we are a year ago. When you put number 10 on the field defensively, you get faster. So that helps, number one. But T.J. Brunson's playing very fast. We're faster at the linebacker position. I think up front, Dennis Warnham has done a really nice job. Dante Sawyer gives us a position variety of playing end and rushing inside at times. I think we're faster in the secondary than we were a year ago. So I don't think there's any question. That's where it really struck you on special teams and defensively where we needed to improve our speed, and I think we have.
Coach, a lot of times at the beginning of the season, you see players go down with cramps. Is there any added hydration measures for this team going into the first part of the game, or do you guys go with what you normally do in the middle of the season?
With some of the soft issues we had last year, part of my research in the off season was correcting that, and part of that was hydration. And I think our nutrition department and Kristen Coggins and Jeff Dillman, our strength staff, have done a fantastic job of emphasizing that to our players. We have not had a lot of cramps in camp. I don't think it's supposed to be tremendously hot Saturday, maybe some rain possibly. We've planned for some wet ball practices and things like that. We've prepared for that. So, but I really feel like you would have seen more of those things show up in camp, and we've really eliminated a lot of those things.
From the start of camp to now, just how much progress did you see from Jamyest, and what really stands out about his skill set at that nickel spot?
Well, I think you see a guy that's got the number one talent he has is competitive edge. The guy goes and competes every snap, and he goes out to practice and practices the right way, the way you're supposed to practice. And he's a bright young man. He continues to learn. The more snaps and he continues to take. The game is going to continue to slow down for him. But I've been extremely proud of how he's come in here and worked, and that's been the most important thing. If a guy's willing to come in and has some intelligence, and he's willing to work, and he's got some ability, he's going to have a chance, and certainly he's enhanced his chances by how he's played.
Opening with a quality opponent, do you find that helps with the attention to detail for your guys as they go through camp, maybe as opposed to opening with a little bit lesser team that you're expected to be pretty heavily?
I really think I go back to the summer of our guys understanding we need to be game ready, game one. When you have an opponent like NC State, to understand you better be in shape, and understanding all of those things, the strength levels, the endurance levels, all of them need to be ready to go when camp starts. And that's something to me that's a little extra motivation for the players. I think camp's camp. I mean, we're going to push our guys to be focused, to be dialed into what they need to be successful with.
Coach, with the game being up in North Carolina, what's the rundown for the week? You guys have a walkthrough here on Friday? We have a walkthrough up there. What's the...
Yeah, just normal operation. We do everything here. I believe in just watching our film from Thursday's practice and having our walkthrough. We complete everything here in Columbia, regardless of where we're playing, and finish all of that, and then travel to the hotel. We'll have dinner at the hotel, and then have some meetings and some short walkthroughs that night, and get up the next morning, have a little breakfast, and then have a little more walkthrough. And we do a lot of walkthroughs in those times to keep the thinking caps on, that sort of deal.
Coach, what are the biggest challenges about going up against such an outstanding front four?
Well, I think they're very disruptive. They do a really good job of rushing four guys. They can get to the quarterback with four guys rushing. They're going to do a good job in attacking your protections to getting some one-on-one matchups, which you've got to be careful with. They do a good job of stemming to what I call bear front a lot and creating one-on-one matchups across the board with the linebacker rushing in the rush. So, again, the one-on-one matchups, you got to make sure you give enough variety and protection to keep your quarterback upright. But they're also very disruptive in the run game as well. They've recruited extremely well there. They've evaluated very well, and they've developed their players very well up front. Credit Dave and those guys for that.
Coach, you touched on your areas of concern at the beginning, but what are your areas of strength? Anything that that you feel like you can hang your hat on going to this game?
Well, obviously, you have a returning quarterback that you have confidence in what he's doing and the skill people around him, I think are very good players. And obviously getting Sky Moore back and Bryson Allen Williams and T.J. Brunson, and I feel really good about that core of guys there in our secondary. We've got to stay healthy in the front seven, especially on defense from that standpoint. But that we are on defense. You talk in terms of seniors of Sky and Bryson Allen and DJ and Chris Lamons and Dante and Urick and Taylor Stallworth. A lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps for us. Jamarcus King. So feel good about that experience there.
Coach, with the different format this summer, with training camp not being able to have the two days and having that seventh day off, did you notice maybe the team coming together a little bit more? I know other teams, whether it's D1, D2, talking to other coaches, they said that they did more team activities on that seventh day. Do you feel this team's even closer than maybe teams you've been around in the past?
Right. Well, I think they get along, and I think that goes back to competing in practice and understanding to compete against each other. But we got a close-knit group. We were last year, and I feel the same this year. Really the camp schedule wasn't a whole lot different for us. We didn't do a lot of two-a-days anyways, and most of our two-a-days were just a walk-through. So we didn't really have to change our schedule a lot. And on the day off, we did some different things with the team as far as the team function, which certainly anytime they're out of the realm of football and seeing us differently as more husbands and fathers instead of coaches, I think that's always good for the players. Yeah.
Against a front four like NC State has, how much more does the quick passing game kind of take on prominence?
Well, I can't tell you that, Ben. I mean, come on, man. They put their hands up, too. They can bat balls down. So, there you go.
Well, hopefully you don't have to answer this on Saturday, but who would your number 3 quarterback be?
Well, obviously Jay Urick's going to travel, and Danny Gordon's a young man that's done a nice job for us as well. So I think, you would ask yourself, we have had the discussion, is it a long-term issue or is it a short-term issue? And that's probably how I would answer the question.
Are there any offensive linemen aside from the starting 5 that you want to see in game action?
Certainly, I think Dennis Daly's a guy that's played extremely well. Needs to be more consistent. DJ Park is a guy that is very versatile, can play across the board at different spots, but certainly can. So Darius Hutchinson's had the last 10 days of camp has been the guy that we recruited, and a guy that we're obviously excited about. Chandler Farrell's certainly capable of going in and playing extremely well for us. Blake Camper's done a nice job. So, we got guys that we have confidence in and being able to put in the game and being effective.
Will you make a concerted effort to get any of those guys in?
Possibly. We're still talking in terms of rotation and things. We haven't been dead set on the depth chart. Did you give them the garnet copy or the black copy?
Whatever one you gave me.
Okay. I don't know which one you got, so I can't comment. We gave one, though. Some of these schools aren't giving out depth charts, are they? Rosters. Really? I didn't know that. He's something.
Will, you went into this offseason saying that this might have been the most question mark filled defense that you've been a part of in your years of coaching. Does that change where your emotions are here just a few days away from kickoff of the season opener?
No, they still hadn't lined up in front of 80,000 people yet, so that doesn't change anything. But I like the ability. I like the guy. I talked about Eldridge Thompson and Sherrod Green earlier. They're good football players. They just haven't necessarily done it in this setting before. So I'm excited about seeing both of those guys play on Saturday. We've cut back a little bit, maybe volume-wise of what we do, because DJ Smith can handle everything we want to do. Chris Lamons can handle everything. Sky, those guys, they can handle everything. Well, what if they're not in the game? And you got to be careful about what you're calling in those situations with the combination of different players you might have in the game. So those are things that we've had a lot of discussions about in the last 10 days of, what exactly do we do best with this player in the game, and what can he execute? They may go in motion, so we've got to make an adjustment in those situations. So those are things that we're kind of getting a call list dwindled down for some guys to let them go play fast, and they don't need to be thinking on the field; they need to be reacting.
Sticking with the safeties, Will, what did it mean to give a scholarship to a guy like a Javon Charleston, who is a kind of self-made player in that way?
Well, he earned it. I mean, he came here as a receiver, and then last year we had some depth issues in the secondary. We moved him to safety, and he came to me when the year was over and said he wanted to do it full time. But he contributed to our special teams last year. Right now he'd be a guy that we're planning on playing in the game Saturday, but a guy that's going to be a huge contributor on special teams and can be very effective as a safety. He's a guy that just needs some snaps. He's never played defensive back in his life, so there's a lot of firsts for him every day as far as those things are concerned. So we got to just continue to progress forward. But he's a really good athlete. He's got a lot of range. He's got really good ball skills down the field to finish on the ball, good ball judgment down the field. So he's got some good attributes we're looking for as any defensive back.
Has Javon Kinlaw has he had the month and a half you expected he would coming
Well, I
here?
think Javon's progressed very well. He works extremely hard at it. Was a guy that's as big as he is. The biggest thing that concerns his pad level. He's got to get his pads down in some situations. But I've been extremely pleased with Javon, a guy that really has exceeded my expectation coming in. Obviously from junior college and coming in and has a great work ethic. He's extremely bright, learns extremely well. A guy that I've been really pleased with.
Is Shamik Blackshear in your plan for Saturday in the rotation as you have it in your mind right now?
We're still discussing those things, but Aaron Sterling's a guy obviously that's going to figure in at end. Shamik, but Dante and Kier are guys that are very versatile for us. They can rush inside for us and will, situationally, be inside players for us, which provides opportunities for Aaron and Shamik outside.
Coach, how much confidence do you have in the freshmen that you know are probably going to see time this year, given that you've been here a year and established your program? Now you have a class that's coming into, a program that's kind of already rolling.
Well, we wouldn't put them on the field if we didn't have confidence in them. So if they're going to be playing, then obviously we've got a lot of confidence in them.
Dave has mentioned a few times, when he was asked about Carolina's strength, he said wide receiver. But I'm wondering how important it is to get, a guy like Debo involved early in this game.
Well, I mean, regardless of when it's early or late, he needs to be involved. So, but there's no question Debo's a very terrific playmaker, a guy in space that's hard to bring down. He's hard to bring down with one tackler. He's got a very strong lower body, but certainly is one of our playmakers, along with Brian Edwards, along with Hayden Hurst, and a good stable of running backs. So we feel like we've got multiple guys that certainly can hurt a defense, and Debo is a feature guy for us as well.
Anything else for Coach? No. See you on.
All righty. See you Saturday.